It struck me this week while I was preparing, looking at the parasha, which of course is Emor, that Emor always falls during this specific time of year, which is Sfirat HaOmer. And more relevant to just Sfirat HaOmer, it seems to always fall after Yom Ha'atzmaut and before Yom Yerushalayim. And why is that interesting? Because, of course, Emor is the parsha of the Moadim. It's the parsha of the Chagim. It's the first time, and obviously repeated other times in the Torah, that we talk about the Shlosh Regalim, we talk about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and obviously talk about Shabbat as the, I guess, original Moed, but the Moadim are the five Torah festivals. And of course, we know today that, of course, are the festivals of Chagim of the Rabbanon, the rabbis, namely Chanukah and Purim. And therefore, Rav Akiva Eiger in the Sfat Emet, Sfat Emet in the 19th century, in 1881, in fact, wrote the following idea. He said that the Chagim that the rabbis instituted were based on the Chagim of the Torah. And he's specifically talking about the Shlosh Regalim as the Chagim, because of course Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are a different level of Chagim, the Yamim Noraim, but they are seen as kind of separate from the Chagim of Yalev Yavor, of Hallel, that kind of the Shlosh Regalim all have in common. Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, obviously, there is Yalev Yavor, and there is sort of certain tefillot, but it's different in many ways to the Shlosh Regalim, the three Chagim of going up to Shalim. And he says the following. He says Chanukah is derived from Sukkot because both involve the appearance of Hashem's presence. We were given the clouds of glory on Sukkot, and this revelation created the forces that would be reborn as the Chashmonaim would return the holy presence to the temple with their dedication. So he says you have Sukkot, the Raita festival, and the Rabbanan festival is Chanukah. He then goes on to say, Purim is derived from Shavuot. We were given the Torah on Shavuot, and on Purim, Israel accepted the Torah willingly, as explained in the Gemara and Shabbat, Kimu v'Kiplu, it says, and how they re-energize themselves to re-engage with the Torah during the Purim miracle. So he says Shavuot is Purim. And he then continues and says, and finishes and says, we hoped that another festival will be derived from Pesach. As is written, in the days of your going out from Egypt, I will show you wonders. In 1881, the Sfat Emet wrote this, 16 years before Herzl founded the Zionist movement. Little could he have known that within 66 years of writing that piece of Torah, we would have a third rabbinic festival that would link to the festival of Pesach, that of Yom Ha'atzmaut. And of course, Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yom Yerushalayim, to me, obviously two separate days, but they are the Chagei Iyar, they are the Chagei of the modern world of Israel, and in essence, to me, are joined up as one. And we're, of course, taking the idea further of the power of Emor, the Parsha Moadim, to be the time when Hashem has given us back in the modern era, Moadim, rabbinic Moadim, not of Torah-based Moadim, but Moadim nonetheless, is, of course, another amazing piece of Torah from the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim 428, chapter 3, chapter 3, says that you can work out all the days of the Chagim based on looking at the days of Pesach and applying the Atbash code. Okay, it's a very well-known Shulchan Aruch. And understanding is, if you look at the first day of Pesach, which is Aleph, always falls on the same day as Taf, Tisha B'Av. So if Pesach falls on a Shabbat, then Tisha B'Av will fall on a Shabbat. This year, of course, we know that Pesach, first day Pesach was a Sunday, so Tisha B'Av this year is on a Sunday. Bet is Shin, says the Mechaber. Bet, the second day of Pesach, falls on the same day as Shin, Shavuot. Shavuot this year, again, is on a Monday. Gimel Reish, the third day of Pesach, which is Gimel, falls on the same day as Reish, Rosh Hashanah. Again, Rosh Hashanah, therefore, would fall that year on a Tuesday. The fourth day of Pesach, Dalet, will fall on the same day as Kuf, which is Kriyat Torah, which is Simchat Torah, which is the Chag there. Hey, Tzadi, the fifth day of Pesach falls the same day as Tzadi, Tzom, Yom Kippur. And finally, he says, Vav, the sixth day of Pesach, falls on the same day as Pei, Purim. So he's covered, the Chagim there. But he doesn't mention Zayin Pesach, the seventh day of Pesach. the day that many commentators link to the Geula, the day of Kriyat Yamsuf. He doesn't bring a parallel. He doesn't bring Zion, iron. Why? Because one didn't exist yet. In the 16th century, when he's writing this Atbash code, when he's writing the idea of first day, second day, third day Pesach, linked to Chagim and dates and times, there is no Chag he can find for Zion, so he stops at Vav. Rav Amram Aburbe, the chief Rav of Petach Tikva, in the early years of the state of Israel, writes about this and says the following: in our generation, we have merited to find the Zion Ayin connection. He who reads the generation from the beginning gave them the idea to make Yom Ha'atzmaut on the 5th of Iyar. Therefore, we have Zion, 7th day Pesach, is the same day as Chag Ha'atzmaut, Yom Ha'atzmaut. It's remarkable. And as we now find ourselves in Sfirat HaOmer, we now find ourselves come up to Lag BaOmer tomorrow, we can understand an incredible miracle of history. The Lag BaOmer is the commemoration, in terms of Akiva and his students, of the defeat of the Jewish people at the time of Churban Bayit Sheni, of the last remaining, rebellions of Bar Kokhba being snuffled out, and the beginning of our exile for 2,000 years. And yet now, during Sfirat HaOmer, during this wondrous modern era that Hashem has brought us back to Israel, brought us back to Yerushalayim, we can celebrate during the Sfira these days of Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yom Yerushalayim, 2 days of celebration, which in essence tell us the Omer of old, that we lost Israel and we were exiled. Now the Omer now has within it the Chalta de Geula, the beginning of our redemption. It's a beautiful idea from the Shulchan Aruch, from the Sfat Emet. Two beautiful ideas to really show us that when you read Parsha Emor, when you read about Moadim, say to yourself, it's remarkable. In the modern era, since 1948, when we read Parshat Emor, we read all those Moadim, Hashem has given us during this time 2 more Moadim, the Rabbanan, that we can celebrate, give thanks, give praise to Hashem on this day of Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yom Yerushalayim. Wishing all of you Shabbat Shalom.